I'm Ronan Taylor. I'm from the Highlands of Scotland on the Black Isle. My passion is mountain biking. I'm often down in the Cairngorms and there's really a great variety of terrain around there. Sometimes I'll be out on my bike on top of a wild blustery hill, but then it's also got some great lowland paths as well, so I can go for a nice casual cycle down by the river as well if I want. Sometimes in the national park I like to get up on the hills, and the best way to do that I find is on the paths. Luckily it seems to work quite well alongside with the walkers, as a lot of the trails in Cairngorms are really well built and use a lot of the stone around there, so they hold up really well to bikers, and I think as long as mountain bikers have some respect for the walkers around the area, then they can be used really well together as walkers paths and for the mountain bikers in the area. For me then, Cairngorms is just a really nice place to be because I can combine beautiful scenery with all the types of sport I enjoy doing, so that's perfect, and yeah, it's a privilege to live close to somewhere where I can do that. If I was to head out to the Cairngorms for a day out, then there's really almost too many things for me to do in one day, but if I was to try and squeeze them in one day, I reckon probably go for a nice bike ride in the morning at one of the hills, come down for a spot of lunch beside a loch, then head up skiing in the afternoon if possible. You don't necessarily have to be at the top of a mountain to appreciate the Cairngorms. Luckily it's nice and open, so you can see all round about whether you're down the bottom or whether you are up the top of a hill. I think that's really one of the best things about the Cairngorms. It's a nice open landscape. During the time I've spent in the park, I've been lucky enough to see a great variety of wildlife. One of the creatures I've not yet seen is a wildcat, and even though I'm maybe not likely to when I'm on my bike, it's still a good feeling knowing that they're out there, knowing that the park is big enough, the forest is well connected enough that they are able to live there. One of my favourite animals is a red squirrel. I really like the fact that they're quite daring up in the treetops. I can think back to one time I was actually cycling along, and so I've heard a rustling overhead, looked up, the trees were on either side of the path, and this squirrel jumped from one branch to another a good couple of feet across this gap between the two trees, and I thought, wow, that's pretty impressive. There's actually been quite a few times when I've been cycling along that deer have just jumped out in front of me, and they'll just sprint down from up above me, jump onto the path and disappear down the other side. From my point of view as a downhill mountain biker, then that's really impressive, seeing them just sprint down near vertical slopes. They've certainly got a lot better balance than I do, I think. Biking's a great way of getting around the park. It's got minimal effect on the environment, but you can cover a large distance compared to walking. It's definitely a good thing if you can get the most out of the day in the Cairngorms, then I'd thoroughly recommend taking a bike.